Most high achievers don't need more motivation. They need a real operating system. Today, I'm joined by JB Glossinger, founder of Morning Coach and creator of the Get It Done Now framework. For 21 years, JB has built a member supported daily coaching system, helping founders, CEOs, and high performers cut cognitive overload, get clear, and execute on what matters. In this conversation, you'll learn how to say no more often, simplify your planning, and create steady momentum without burning out. JB, welcome to the show.
Man, I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad I got people that can write intros because that sounded really good. I
I
want to
made
meet
that
that
up all
guy.
by myself.
That was awesome. That was freaking. I need to. Where do I send the check? Right? That
Yeah,
was great.
whoever wrote that for you, give him a raise. It was really good. Hey, JB, I always start these shows in the same way. This is all about building great leadership teams. So, from all of your experience, what do you believe is the one most important characteristic of building a great leadership team?
It's really simple and it's critical. It's communication, and there's two aspects of it. If you don't mind me expanding a little bit on it, and I actually have it on my wall, and that is the communication needs to be about expectations and takeaways. If there are not clear expectations both ways from the leader and the team, this is what we expect from you. This is what, and even the team, everybody needs to know what the heck's going on. Clear expectations both ways, sideways when you hire somebody, because scope creep is the number one thing that kills most high performers. You get somebody really good, you start giving them a bunch of stuff that was never expected. Now, all of a sudden, they're angry, you're angry. So that's one piece of that communication part. And the second one is to constantly be talking about the takeaways. Why are we here? What's going on? Even in marriage, most relationships denigrate because, oh, she didn't put the cap back on the toothpaste. So now all of a sudden you're starting to focus on that. So instead of looking at the takeaways of why we're here, what are we doing, what is all going on, if we don't have those things, leadership is really not valid. It's not strong. So you have to have communication through great expectations and communication through great takeaways.
Well said. I love that. And while on this show we talk about how to build a great leadership team, in not my newest book, my previous book called Breakthrough Leadership Team, I talk about the 6 pillars of building a great leadership team. And the first one is self-leadership. And I have a feeling in our discussion today, we'll talk a little bit about the team, but man, we're going to dive into self-leadership probably deeper than I have on this show before. So let me dive in, and looking through all your stuff and preparing for this, I know, you talk about the idea of aligning who you're becoming with what you're doing every day.
Yeah.
Dig into that a little bit. What does that
Well,
mean?
I think even going back to our first question, if we just want to keep going forward with what makes a great leadership team, let's continue that theme, is authenticity. And I know that's the buzzword of the day, but you have to be real. Like, you can't be the person that's different at the house than when you are there. I mean, I sleep really good at night because I lead my team the way I am. I mean, there's times when I'm a 12-year-old kid, and even in my events, people say, oh, there he goes. And I have people say, Jimmy, no, don't be a 12-year-old, right? I like to have fun, but at the end of the day, there's a serious side. You need to know when to be serious and when not to be. But that has to do with authenticity. That's true leadership. Like, you got to be able to be vulnerable, but you also have to be strong, right? So it's like a combination of things that occur when you're moving forward with being a leader. So authenticity is such a critical component of that, and really becoming, just allowing yourself to expand. And in order for that to happen, there has to be discipline, organization. We call it vision, becoming more. Like 2 years ago, I decided to run. I'm not a runner, but I said, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to qualify for the Boston Marathon. I qualified for the Boston Marathon. I ran 3:27 in Toledo with a failed marathon before that. But what that meant was I became that person. I'm authentic. I can say I did it. You can't pay for that. You can't buy it. I mean, I wish I could buy a golf game. You can't. You can't buy a Boston qualified marathon time. So I think being truly authentic is such an important part of what we're discussing in the big picture.
How does, the leaders that are listening to this are busy people. They're finding time. Thank you for listening to this, but they're busy. And how does someone know, back to being authentic and becoming, who you really are, is how do we know whether we're, whether we're actually becoming the person we want to be? How do we know if we're being productive or if we're just busy?
It's a great question. And just to refer back, anybody listening to this is awesome, right? Anybody listening to this is already somebody that's doing something different,
There's
So
actually
anybody's
one
listening.
guy, JB, there's one guy listening who's not, who, and you know who you are. I don't know if that fits him, but everybody else, you're right. Go ahead.
Great. But it's still awesome. Even him, right? He's here listening. And we'll talk about some things that hopefully can help him. Right. So yeah, I've gone through and I'll use myself as an example. Look, I am no angel and no saint. I have made more mistakes than anybody in business and in life. I went through corporate. I ended up running companies, sitting in an office, hating my life as I'm running an aerospace company, going, what am I doing? Because my value was freedom. And here I am working 60 hours a week with a beautiful home in Miami, beautiful Colombian wife. I love my family. I love everything, but I hated my life. And because I wasn't true to my authentic values. So if we're going to step back, there are three core things in our system that are really critical. It's a mission, it's a vision, and values. So I don't want to get into the corporate jargon of mission and vision because those go a bunch of different directions. In our vernacular, a mission is what you're going to do over 12 months. A vision is who you're going to become over 12 months. And your values is what's important to you at that time in your life. And they'll change. They'll change. I'm 56 now. As I get older, things change. But the key is to understand those key components because going back to busyness, well, if it's not part of your mission or vision, why are you doing it? So it's really about teaching yourself to say no to more things. It's the opposite of what you think. And the more successful you become, the more opportunities you're going to have. So you've really got to build that muscle to say no, or you're going to cause a lot of stress, cognitive load. It's going to cause you to not make good decisions. So stepping back to that, you ask what's important, doing a values assessment. I was in corporate, running aerospace company, 400 people, hated my life. Why? My parents are blue collar workers. I was making 10 times, maybe 15 times more than they ever made in a year. I'm making that. I was killing it. I hated my life because I didn't understand what was important. And what was important to me was freedom. And I had come from a sales background, just FYI, buying and selling aircraft and stuff. And so then I went into management and it just didn't fit. It was the opposite of what I was. And so those three components are really critical for anybody to sit down and really reflect on what do I really want to do.
So let's dig into those. I love those. So mission, vision, values. Is there a sequence? Do you start with values, then vision, then mission,
I
or
love it. Well,
the other way, or does it matter?
I don't have my book here, but the Sacred Six I wrote for Hay House, my last book, I read it like 10 years ago. This new book has actually changed. It's got the whole structure. It's a lot more evolved. But that was a big argument. What comes first, values or mission, or what comes first, vision or mission? And really, as long as we get clarity, it doesn't really matter what comes first. I think to me, it used to be mission, but I'm now starting to lean more to vision's more important because vision is who you're going to become. This year, I'm learning Spanish. I'm going to be a fluent Spanish speaker. That's my vision. So I also live in Colombia. So it's like, I want to be able to do my business in Spanish, not just, be able to commerce, but so I'm changing who I am as a human being. That's really important. The mission, bringing 800 plus coaching clients into Morning Coach is great, but that's, it's not changing me as a person. It's more business related. And then values, I think, are extremely critical because they're your decision-making model. You have to run what's important to you. We usually do 6 or 7. So when I go faith, family, freedom's not as big for me anymore. It's more about contribution now. So that's gone down the list. So I'm actually working harder than I ever have because now I want to have contribution. But I know that. So those mornings when I get up and I've got to do the work, write the books and do things that I really don't need to do because I've built a great business, it's okay, I'm going to contribute. Freedom isn't as important right now. So analyzing your values is really critical. And that's our terminology. But even in an organization, we can go back to Jim Collins, right? Good to Great. It's just one of the best books written years ago. And that's a lot of my learning was my MBA and Jack Welch, aerospace, Six Sigma. That's where I come from. Right. So I brought a lot of quality standard into what I teach because that's my background. And so when we look at that stuff, we've got to look at that even organizationally, not corporate jargon. But what do people really believe in the values? If you say we're going to go out and we're going to, be this company that's for the stakeholders, we're going to help the environment and do all this stuff, but then it's just profit driven. Why are we growing 20%? Why are we going? People are going to call you on your bullshit. Right. So we have to have integral value, mission, vision, values for ourselves. But then our leadership team and our organization also have that integral into what we're doing. And again, going back to Jim Collins, I'm going to give credit where credit's due. That was all his research that said, hey, the great companies have that figured out.
So I want to get down to nuts and bolts and make this real as an individual. And I'll use myself as an example.
Yeah.
So I would imagine values, what's important change, but probably don't change very often. Like you said, for you, contribution, became more important. But the vision and the mission, how many visions and missions should one person have? Like I look at my life and I'm like, well, I got my business and this year I've got, 2 or 3 really important things I want to do in my business around
Yep.
how many keynotes I'm out there doing and how I'm
Yep.
changing the world through my last book and some technology products. And then I've got my health that's really important, and I got about 20 pounds to lose, or
Yep.
my wife is going to kick my ass. And then I'm a dad and I've got 2 grown
Yep.
adult kids. So do people have 4, 5, 6, 8 visions and
So
missions, or is it one at a
through
time? What does that look like?
let's go through the whole process. Okay. So we have a cascade. We'll simplify this. So we have mission, vision, values. Okay. And then we have goals, projects, tasks. Okay. So this all came from the Sacred Six from Ivy Lee years ago, from an Earl Nightingale book that I read, that I listened to, where this Ivy Lee PR guy went into Carnegie that was running the steel mills and said, the Carnegie said, I don't need any more knowing. I need more doing. I need practical shit. I don't need more any doing. He said, okay, what I want you to do, and I'm going to bring this all the way back, right? He goes, I want you to write down what's important today. I want you to start on number 1. And this is before computers and distraction and everything. This is the 1900s, when the steel mills were just getting started. So he said, I want you to write on number 1, and then I want you to go to number 2 once number 1's done. I want you to finish the day, and whatever isn't, and prioritize those things. Start at number 1, go to 2. Whatever isn't done, you move to number 1 and 2 on the next day. Okay. So Carnegie said, okay, thank you. I'll try it. He started to do it, put it to his leadership team. Ivy Lee came back and he said, well, what's it worth to you? He literally wrote him a check for $25,000, which is worth about $250,000 in today's money. This is a true story that Earl Nightingale told on Lead the Field in the first real personal development album. Right? So I heard it on a tape recorder in 1990, started to apply that to my life. That's where the Sacred Six come from. So if we look at the cascade, mission, vision, values, then we go goals, projects, tasks. The key thing is the project. So what you just started talking about is we have a North Star. You have your business. Obviously, there's probably some revenue or there's some freedom aspect that you want to build. In that, okay, is your business stuff. Then what I heard is vision, 20 pounds, the end of the year. Right now, you don't want to learn a language or anything. You want to really get healthy. For me, 2 years ago, I was running Boston. So it's, hey, in December, I want to show up and be 20 pounds lighter. That's my real vision. That's really important to me for my family to show them. So now all of a sudden, we have these North Star big goals, right? This is what we're going to do over 12 months. Some type of financial or some structural, not pie in the sky, but something realistic over 12 months. Cascade it now. Values are what's important. Okay. All this aligns. We have the goals. Okay. Now we can start doing the goals that are going to take us to our mission and take us to our vision. So obviously losing 20 pounds, probably the first goal is to lose 5, right? So you start setting up some goals, set up some goals to your business goals. Then we get to projects. This is where it gets crazy because the projects lead to the goals. The breakdown occurs here. Okay. This is where I say you should only be working on 6 to 7 things at any given time. So what you're talking about is having these big mission and visions. I'm saying, no, let's isolate. We only have a year. You know how fast it goes. It's not slowing down. Let's make sure we're going to accomplish our North Star mission and vision. So have structure there. Okay. You can have a few, but I really would like to isolate. And then let's look at that project and task level. And we build planning systems. So we have them for the Remarkable and the iPad. We have a complete system with this. But what you want to do is understand the project level. This is the scope creep. This is where everything breaks down. This is where the Sacred Six really works. It's like you only have so many projects you should be working on. So there's probably one health one in there, right? And then the rest are probably business stuff. And then what happens is as you start doing the tasks, there's a 3-step task system. First is to build the task, whether it's with AI or whatever, how it's going to be done. The second time is to manage it through consistency. I have a check in here. And once you become consistent, Boston Marathon qualified runner, it's nowhere. I don't need to put it anywhere anymore. I'm done. So there's a hierarchy of structure of what we work with. And again, this all comes from years of working with, I'm not an engineer, but I'm an MBA, but not an engineer. but years of working in aerospace in the quality area and going, wow, we could really put this into organizations and into life. So to your point, your mission is business related, keynote structure, that type of stuff. Those goals can be there, 10 keynotes, whatever you're doing. And I'm very familiar with that business, so I understand it. Vision, I think, would be the getting in shape, maybe body shaping, a little bit of weight loss. And then we break it down. We have some goals, we cascade it down, we have projects, and we have the daily task. But where we screw up is the projects. Okay. So we got to eliminate everything that's coming in that's creating noise that's not going to get us to those two main North Star objectives. Does that make sense?
It does. And so it sounds like the key is when you come up with, you said no more than 6 or 7 projects, and one project may be health related, 4 of them may be business related, one may be, whatever. But it sounds like the key is not only what actions do I need to take to accomplish those projects down at the task level,
all the way down.
That I imagine it tells us what we ought to be saying no to. So, hey,
yeah,
I've got some shiny object that comes in. Is that part of one of these projects? If it's not, why am I working on it?
I work with professional golfers all the way to CEOs, to a lot of professional people. And that is the number one problem. And here's the thing. When you're just getting started, a lot of times this isn't an issue, right? A lot of times it's not an issue. Like you can structure things properly, but the more successful you become, the opportunities are coming at you. So I'm not going to say this from an ego standpoint. I have built an amazing system. Jack Welch was one of my people that I really followed. I had a huge defense contractor come at me with 120,000 employees. Okay. I live in Colombia. I'm building a place in Palomino, Colombia, my West Colombia. We have a place in Ibagué. I'm in Chicago with my mother. I have a retreat center up here for her now. Just a little lifestyle stuff here. I had a company approach me. They said, JB, we'll give you $1,000 per year per employee. Now you do 100,000 because it was not the 20 were maintenance in other areas, but they wanted me to bring my systems in for 100,000 people. That's $100 million business. Okay. I just want to, so over 10 years, my little business could be $1 billion business. So here's what happened. I flew there. We had discussions, talked through. I said, no. People think I'm nuts. I have friends that are like, you're insane. We talked about private jets. They wanted to take all my systems. But here's the thing. Morning Coach would be gone. All the people that I'd be gone, they would take all my IP. Why do I say this? Because I believe in my systems. So I turned down the biggest project that most people, if I was 35, I'd have done it. I'll be just full disclosure. If I was 35, I'd have been in. But I'm 56. I love my life. I'm happy with the people I work with, and I'm not trying to build this gigantic thing. So I'm bringing this back because it's not part of my mission and vision, right? So as you become more successful, you get more and more opportunities that come your way. And it's happening to me right now. I've got so many opportunities and I just say no. It's not part of what's going to bring me joy and happiness. And what I believe is true success is total peace. So that's where the big issue comes for all of us. We're all grinding so hard. Like in running, we have zone 2 and zone 3, zone 4, zone 5 running. Great runners train in zone 2. That's almost walking. People think, wow, you're not doing anything. I do 40 miles a week. Most of it's zone 2. It's not 9 minutes a mile. It's not very hard, 10 minutes. But that's building a cardiovascular base that allows me to run a 3-hour and 20-minute marathon. Same thing in life and in business. You have to have structure so you're not always at zone 5 and zone 4. And so many leaders are living in survival mode every day because they don't know how to say no to things that are coming into their life, whether it's their spouse, whether it's the significant other, whether it's their family. You have to get clarity of what's important and stick to it.
So you come up with a plan. You've got your mission, vision, values. You've got your goals. You've got your projects. You've got your tasks. But what causes most leaders, most people have the ability to come up with a plan? The planning part, if you've got a process, is not the hard part. But most people can come up with a plan. They know their goals, but they struggle, as I have from time to time, with consistency. For me, from a business standpoint, man, I've got that consistency. From a personal health standpoint, I'm not where I need to be. Hence me saying, one goal is to get healthier and lose weight, lower my blood sugar and all that stuff. In your experience, what causes that breakdown between knowing what to do and having a plan, but consistently executing on it?
Cognitive load. Very simple. It's just you're overloaded. Everybody's overloaded. Like too much information, too much education, and not enough action. And the brain can only handle so much. That's why, quitting drinking for me was huge. Not that I ever had a problem. I just became a marathoner. I couldn't drink alcohol and run marathons. It's just impossible. And also running. That was a big part of me to help manage cognitive load. The other thing is you got to give yourself a break. Life is a roller coaster. Life's going to happen. There is no perfection. And that's a really important. Any system that inherently doesn't have flexibility is a bad system. Now, I show up every day. That's why I've done 6,000 episodes. It's my blessing and my curse. I'll show you. I just pulled it out. I was a C and D. Oh, you can't see it that good, but this is my report card. C, D, F, D, B. That was my final senior report card. And I ended up going to do my MBA, my PhD. I had to read 3 books a week. Zig Ziglar, one of my mentors, said, you got to read. And so I actually feel over the years, now I'm pretty intelligent, right? And it's because I had to work and do it consistently. And that's not without errors along the way. But my point is, the key is to give yourself breaks, be really clear about what you're doing, and be careful with cognitive load, like overload. I got to do this. Because if you get too much of that going on and you're like, I'm not disciplined enough, then you start beating yourself up in your team, everybody feels it. You don't have the energy to do what you need to do, and it causes real problems. I'll tell you, I just had a big issue with myself where I started getting caffeine addicted. I took up caffeine for running because it's great at mile 16. You take 100 milligrams of caffeine. So I started drinking Celsius. I'm not a caffeine guy. Next thing you know, I'm doing 400 milligrams of Celsius. Time is compressing. I'm getting stressed out. I'm drinking during the day. I feel amazing. But all of a sudden, the cognitive load hit, and I started to have making bad decisions, bad judgments. So I said, whoa, I got to back off of that. So stepping back, you need a system that you can plug into with consistency. That's why I believe what we've built is really important. But you also got to step back as yourself, not beat yourself up. And I call it wash, rinse, repeat. And every once in a while, you just got to wash, rinse, repeat, meaning you got to just clear the boards, clear the whiteboards, clear everything. In fact, one of the things I do with my CEOs is I say, look, what I want you to do this weekend is forget you're in the business. I want you to act like you sold it. I want you to come in with all new perspective of all your people, of everybody. And I want you to start with a clean slate, come in with a totally different attitude. So stepping back again, don't ever beat yourself up about the past. No leader should ever do that. It's all why we become who we become. But the beautiful thing about life is we can start over any day. Like you could start tomorrow with a cleaner path and a cleaner direction. And task development. First, we put the plan together, then we model it with consistency, and then it becomes automatic. If you stop doing it, it has to go back to the start again. Okay, this is basic quality stuff. So, okay, I'm not working out. I'm not doing what I need to do. Okay, stop. Let's go back. We've got to create a new task plan. We've got to start tracking the consistency, and then one day it'll be automatic. That's life. There is no perfection. And so you need a system that inherently you can work with, that you can model your life through. Very important.
Going back to kind of bigger picture around not projects and tasks, but back to vision and mission, if someone is listening and they're struggling a little bit with, either I'm not sure who I want to become and I'm not sure what I need to do in the next 12 months. And I'm thinking as an individual versus a big strategic business goal.
Yeah.
As an individual, I'm not sure who I want to become. I'm not sure, what my mission is over the next 12 months. Could be that, or it could be, hey, I've got 57 things I want to do and I've got to narrow it down. Is there an exercise or a process you suggest people go through to try to get clear on that high level vision and mission?
There's a lot of things you can do, right? So there's like envisioning your funeral, and I can go through a lot of the standard coaching kind of practices, but my personal opinion on that is it starts with awareness. So it's like enlightenment's kind of a funny word, right? If I'm in the spiritual side too, that's kind of where I live. And we talk about enlightenment, and somebody that is enlightened isn't going to say they're enlightened, right? They're just not going to, because they're enlightened. People that do meditation, okay? If you think, am I doing it right? Am I meditating right? You're doing it right. So this type of work, like trying to figure it out, just as long as you're aware, it doesn't have, again, it's not perfect. It doesn't have to be today. This is a process. I mean, I have people that I've worked with for 21 years, right? So I have a belt system. So I have black belts. I have a gentleman that was 3 years, German engineer. He started with me his first year. His wife thought he was absolutely crazy. She's, I don't even know what you're doing with this mission vision stuff. He had almost had a heart attack. He was stressed out. Year 1, started getting things together. Year 2, phenomenal. Year 3, he told me, and it was just awesome. He said, my wife finally said, I don't know what you're doing with that morning coach thing, but I love the man you're becoming. And his life's amazing. He's one of my biggest, he does meetups. He loves people. He's awesome. He's changed his entire life. Took him 3 years. So it's about awareness, right? Nobody teaches this stuff. Like nobody's teaching you to get super clear about what you need to do. So for me, there can be techniques, but what I really think the most important thing is just start. Start thinking about what is my vision. Start thinking about what my vision is. Who do I want to become? And then if you can't really grasp that, what do I want to do tomorrow? Slow it way down. What can I do to make my life the best? When I work with somebody that comes to me and says, JB, I'm just so stressed out. I say, okay, stop. Let's just step back, get your whiteboard out every morning and write down the most important things you need to do and just do 3 of them today. And it's amazing how that starts to slow everything down. Psychological time is really important. When I talk about compressing time, people that are slamming coffee all day, your time just goes fast. If we can slow time down, a lot of this allows you to slow it down. Now, all of a sudden, it seems like you have more you can get done during the day because you aren't so freaked out and cognitive load. So stepping back, if you don't know what to do, just do. Just little things, baby steps. This doesn't have to be done in a day. Like we're talking about life planning. What drives me crazy, Mike, and this is crazy, is I'll get with people and I'll talk to them and they'll spend $150,000 in a year on their wedding. Okay? One day of their life. But when we talk about this stuff, they're not willing to even spend a day. And I'm like, what are we doing here? And this is at events, and well, I brought my wife because she thinks this is a bunch of BS. And, I told her, you spent all this time on the wedding. We need to spend some time on our life. And I mean, we're talking about our lives here. We're talking about our businesses here. So I think it's important we step back and try to figure out what's important.
Yeah, and I love what you said about writing it down. I learned something similar from the first business coach I ever had over, I guess it's 20 years ago, maybe over 20 years ago. And he had this grand term he used every morning you got to do. He called it executive creation and decision making. What it really is, and what I still do to this day, is in the morning before the day gets started, before I start getting into email or getting any real work done, is I journal what are the outcomes that I'm committed to achieve today. Not my to-do list, not I'm going to make this phone call, I got to go to the dry cleaner, what are the 2, 3, or 4 most important outcomes that I'm committed to achieve today? So if it's not record a podcast, it's make sure I'm recording information that's going to change lives. It's not,
I love it. Yeah.
It's not have a call with this prospect. It's I'm going to close the deal. It's not, and sometimes it can be personal stuff, but I journal what are the 3, 4 or so outcomes that I'm committed to achieve today. And then below it, I got my wins and I start, things that happen good. I know at the end of the day, I could remember all the crap.
Yeah, exactly.
But we got to document the wins. And what
100%.
I find is every once in a while, there's a day where I don't do that. For whatever reason, my day gets started. Maybe I wake up late, something happens. It's the day I don't do it. I tell you, it's become such a habit that I get to the end of the day where maybe I was really busy, but I have no idea if I was productive. And when I don't do that, I feel stressed because I'm not sure I'm doing the right things. And it sounds like that. That's part of your system as well.
Oh, yeah. Journaling is huge because journaling slows time down. Again, so there was a couple points you made. One, the mind always remembers the negative. So I work with pro golfers. I can have a guy shoot a 62 and he'll tell me all his bad shots. I'm like, wait a minute. I want to hear about the eagle on 13. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's really important that you have some techniques, but I want to step back with techniques real quick because I think it's an important point, Mike. You made something great. You learned something from a business coach that you've applied. So here's why your show is great. Like when you do leadership and other people come on, I'm a weird teacher. I like people to go experiment with all type of techniques because there is no cookie cutter thing. My system is a broad system and everybody that I work with has different thought processes. I have people like Jürgen, who I was telling you is a German engineer, who is amazing. He's a 96-page plan. I mean, this guy is unbelievable. I have Karen, who runs an e-commerce huge company, who's amazing. And she writes nothing. It's all mental and she structures this in her mind and she uses some spreadsheets, very complicated, very intelligent person. So everybody needs their own patterns. Like everybody needs their own thing. So that worked for you, which is great. And that's part of the process. My thing is get clear, understand our structure, and then utilize the techniques that work for you. Yes, we got planners, but not everybody wants to use this. Some people like a whiteboard. Some people like to write it on pen and paper. So it's really important that when we talk about your structuring, that you find what works for you. And you'll find that by doing things, and some things will resonate more. So I think it's great. Yeah, I'm a huge fan. I teach journaling. For me, it's a non-negotiable now. Before it wasn't. I usually teach saying you should journal when you feel like it, but I'm like you. I need it in the morning. It slows me down. So journaling is very important to me. I do a very similar thing. Outcomes. I also am a huge reader. So I'm, writing my notes for reading. We do a book study every month. So we do these arcs, like our first one's cognitive arc. Then we're going to do habits where we take 3 books, we break them down. So I'm constantly in learning mode, but everybody's an individual. There is no cookie cutter program, and I think that's a big problem when it comes to leadership and development. A lot of times it's like we got systems, right? But when we bring our teams together and you're forcing a Kanban board down a person that needs a piece of paper, or you got a spreadsheet person that's a visual person, that's a problem. We need to have a little more emotion and empathy for the people around us, and we need empathy for ourselves. So when somebody comes to me, we have a software we're developed, Companion. They say, hey, JB, I'm in. It's a $200 thing where I have my whole coaching program with software and everything. And they're like, I want to do this. But then they start using the software and it doesn't matter. I'm not angry about that. It just doesn't work for them. You know what I mean? So it's really important when it comes to these personal growth areas and things we're going to do, you have to find what works for you. And that's really critical. And that's a big part of what we do. It's, man, you've got to be customizable to the system. So I'm glad to hear journaling works great for you. Some people it doesn't.
Tell me more. We've hit different facets of it, but tell me more about Morning Coach and how you work with your clients. Take me through what that program looks like.
Well, it's evolved. I mean, I started off, if you don't mind, right? I'll tell you a little history. 21 years ago, trying to be a speaker. So I wrote a book, Get Out of Neutral, had it published. I spent $40,000 on it, all my money, and failed. This is the worst thing it was disaster. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I thought everybody would hire me. I was paying to speak. I'd pay $500 to go speak. We took 1,000 books and sold 2. Had to take them all back to the car. I mean, I just disaster after disaster. And so in doing that, one night I got drunk. I have, again, full disclosure, I don't care. And my buddy was there and he's like, dude, your stuff's good. Why don't you do like a message of some type? So the internet really wasn't going then, but I found freeconferencecall.com. I bought a book called Dreamweaver. I went on Alta Vista or whatever and found morningcoach.com. And I started doing a conference call every morning. I literally built this ugly page. It's still out there on wayback.org where give me your email and I'll give you a phone number, right? And you can call in. So I had people calling in and then 100 people started calling in, broke the lines. So then I was like, oh my God, what do I do? And I found this podcasting thing. So I started podcasting in 2005. And I used to just do it ghetto. Like I would do it with a line like this, like all my phone. And in the background, somebody'd actually be going to the bathroom. It was the craziest thing. And I didn't know how to mute the line. So my first episodes, people were emailing me and going, you shouldn't really go to the bathroom when you're trying to teach something. It was crazy. So it was just error after error. But what happened was in 2006, like 280 episodes in, somebody at iTunes loved what I was doing and featured it. And we went to top 25 in iTunes. I beat Tony. I beat everybody. And I was starting to speak at Blog World with Tim Ferriss and Gary Vee and everybody. It was crazy. But between 2005 and 2009, we didn't make any money. There was nobody that cared about podcasting then. I had a huge audience, but there were no sponsorship. So 2009, my dog passed away. He's behind me over there, big German Shepherd I had. And I went to Colombia and I came back and said, I'm going to charge. And I started charging $20. And at that time, I had 13,000 people in a site we made, and they would listen every day. And 1,300 people came with me to listen every day to my coaching systems. And it was like $1 billion to me. I was a millionaire. Like it changed my life. Like those people are the most special people in the world. And what's crazy about it is I was so angry with a 10% conversion. I'm like, oh, this sucks. I can't believe it. I'm terrible. And now we get 1%. Like it's so hard, And it was such a great journey. But then over the years, I've worked with Wayne Dyer, who became a friend, which was great through Hay House. And I've had just great experiences. But working with people over the years really brought me to where I am today. And we have an evolved system now that took 21 years to get to, working years, doing 6,000 episodes, listening to a really, being able to put a vocabulary to this and really build a great system that I'm extremely proud of that changes life. So what do we do is every day I do a coach cast, 365 days of the year. So people that need it are there. We do a workbook with that. We have a community of amazing founders and people that have meetups. I just had a great meetup today. They get together and it's $100 a month. And I have a software now that we're developed $100 a month. So I've built this coaching program that I can do because it's not millions of people, right? I can do it at a level that I can work with people and not kill them. And that's important to me because I went through the mastermind thing. I had a $45,000 mastermind. I do some retreats that are a little higher, but it just wasn't me, And so now the business is a really foundational piece of what I do. It's what I love. And I work with people every day through a coach cast. They listen to it in the morning as part of their morning routine. All my systems are set up so they know their mission, vision, values, and they can connect with other professionals. So it's been a really great journey filled with a lot of mistakes along the way. But that's Morning Coach.
Love it. And by the way, you mentioned Wayne Dyer, and I've got a bunch of his books behind me on the bookcase that you might not be able to see, but I was a big fan.
Well, Wayne, can I give you a quick one on leadership from Wayne? So first time I ever met Wayne was on a podcast interview, and Reed Tracy, the CEO of Hay House, who I was writing for, said, "Hey, JB, I want you to write a book for me." I said, "Okay." He goes, "I want you to meet Wayne." Wayne was his best friend. So I get on the phone with Wayne, and I'm getting ready to interview him like this. But this is old school. There was no video or anything. So I'm on the phone. I say, "Wayne," I said, "Hey, it's great to meet you. I'm such a big fan." And just to share with you, I got to share the stage with Wayne when at the end, when he was, getting sicker. And I actually got to tell him how much he meant to me. It was 5,000 people. It was one of the most magical moments of my life to tell Wayne, because when I was struggling at the beginning, I used to use wisdom of the ages and stuff. And that's how I kind of got my start. So long story short, I'm on the phone with Wayne for the first time. I'm all excited. I'm giddy, and he goes, "How's it going, JB? Reed, tell me all about your business." I said, "I love it, but it's hard. The coaching business is hard because not everybody's into personal development. It's really hard." And I said 10 times, and Wayne goes, "It's never been hard for me." And he was quiet. And I'm like, did I make him angry? Did I just piss off Wayne Dyer? What's going on? I mean, he was dead quiet. I mean, the line was quiet for 3 minutes. It was the longest 3 minutes of my life. And he goes, "JB, it's not hard." He goes, "Roofing's hard. There's so many other things that are hard." And literally that piece of advice has been worth millions of dollars to me. It changed my whole outlook on life because what I do isn't hard. And everything changed for me. Like all my business changed. Everything became easier. Just one little piece of Wayne Dyer changed my life. It was unbelievable.
One thing I'll never remember from one of his, I don't remember if it was book or one of his specials on PBS that I watched way back, but he said when he wakes up in the morning, the first thing he says when he wakes up is "thank you." He's like, "Thank you, thank you." So I said, I don't know if that first thing he said or the first thought that went through his head was "thank you."
Yeah.
And I'm like, I never paid attention. I wonder what my first thought is when I wake up in the morning. And I kept forgetting to track what my first thought was. And the first time I remembered to do it, and I may have to bleep out what I'm about to say. I don't know how much, the level of curse word I could use on a podcast. But I woke up and my first thought was, "Oh, fuck." I'm like, that's not good. That's kind of the opposite of "thank you." But that always stuck with me and thankfully, and I think you're in the same position I'm in, I feel like we're two of very few people where I absolutely love what I do every day. I mean, you said you're 57, 56. I guess turned 61 this year.
Awesome.
And some
I love
folks,
it. Yeah.
I know a lot of people that are starting to slow down or think about when they're going to retire. And I'm like, I'm just getting started. Like
Amen.
I haven't peaked
Amen.
yet. What are you talking about? But
I feel like I
always
just started my business.
Thank you.
Honestly, I feel like I just started 21 years. Like I finally am figuring it out. You know what I mean? I finally have it. It took me 21 years. Well, I'll tell you a funny thing. I used to think I needed gray hair. I'm getting gray hair here. And I used to think like all my mentors had gray hair. I'm like, nobody's going to listen to me unless they have gray hair. That was my belief, right? I got to have this wisdom. And so now I'm there. Like I'm finally wise. So I'm excited.
Yeah, it's funny. Well, hey, JB, this is great. So if someone is interested in finding out more, whether it's Morning Coach or getting your new book, where should people go if they want to dig in?
Let's
do
this. Let's do this because I have the planner system I have for free. I mean, I don't usually give it away, but I'm going to give it away to anybody that wants my planning system. So if you have it's a 988 page planner. This thing's awesome. And if you read the book, Get It Done Now, it'll tell you how to use this thing. And I'll give it to you free. So we'll do morningcoach.com BLT. How's that sound? Like morningcoach.com.
I love it.
Okay, we'll do BLT. And that way, no email or anything. You just come download the planner. And then if you want to learn about Morning Coach, it'll be there. I'll put the episode up there. We'll do some cool stuff for your listeners. And anybody needs, I'm chill. Like the one thing, if I have an issue with marketing, like I'm not a marketer, like I'm not a hype guy. I'm not into that. Or I'm a long-term relationship guy. I don't want to close anybody into anything that I do. That's the last thing I want to do. So I don't want to get all hypey about stuff, but this is the first book that I've written with my heart. Hay House, I wrote for money. I mean, they gave me a ton of money and I wrote it quick, get it done. My first book when I left corporate is just get it done, try to make money. I told my wife, we're gonna make so much money. We never sold them. I ended up selling all of them, but this is my first heartfelt book. I don't care if I make a dime. I really don't. It's really the systems that are going to change lives.
He doesn't care if he makes a dime, but go buy the book and give him a little bit of money.
It's free on Kindle Unlimited. It's actually free on Kindle.
Oh, no. Okay.
Well, I'm going to leave it on Kindle Unlimited.
JB, this is great. I really enjoyed talking to you. I always say, if you want a great company, you need a great leadership team. Self-leadership and all the things we just talked about are so critical to that as a leader. If you're not taking care of yourself and understanding what you're saying yes to and what you're saying no to, you can't be good for anybody. You can't be good for your company. You can't be good for your family or yourself. So just awesome stuff. And I appreciate you being on the show.
No problem, Mike. Keep doing what you're doing, brother. We need energy out there. And everybody's listening. Very important that you made it to this part. How awesome are you? This is what it's about, right? We're different. We all know we're different. Just keep striving to be the best.
Thanks, JB. Great talk.